Welcome back to another episode of the Todd Durkin Impact Show. And today you are in for another treat because I have a very dear friend named Troy Fontana who'll be joining us in just a few minutes. As a matter of fact, Troy and I have known each other for over 15 years. Yes, over 15 years. And Troy has been through one heck of a journey, and he is going to inspire you today. He's actually going to put you in a different state of mind that I know is going to positively impact your day, your week, your month, and maybe even your life as well. So buckle up for that. But I have a question for you first. Does anyone else need to slow down every now and then? Anyone? Yeah, Bueller? Yeah. Sometimes you need to slow down. Because if you're anything like me, you know, you're looking forward to all the great things that you're trying to do and accomplish. And it's a busy time of the year between graduations and parties, and it's the summertime and all these great things that are happening. I had a mentor several months ago recommend a book for me called Slow Down to the Speed of Life. Slow Down to the Speed of Life. And I absolutely loved that book. All about slowing down and enjoying the moments that we're in right now. And the reason why I share that with you today is because as the summer heats up, I want to make sure that you're very, very present in the here and the now with everything going on. I'm hyper aware that my son Brady, who just graduated from high school, is going off to college here in less than 2 months. And I'm hyper aware of time, man. We've got 18 summers with our kiddos and then they're gone. You parents can understand what that means is time flies by. Well, today, Troy Fontana, the reason I say that is because if my voice sounds a little more peaceful, a little slower than normal, and I don't feel as fired up as normal, I am fired up, but I just got done going through a meditation. And at the very end of today's show, Troy is going to lead you through a meditation. So if you stick around to the very, very end, you will get the same zen that I'm in right now as I record this, because I'm recording it after the show. And I have to tell you, my mind is so relaxed and at peace, and I'm really, really excited for you to listen to this conversation. Now, check this out. Troy, who's based up in Reno, Nevada, he's been married for over a decade, 3 kids. They're 11, 8, and 7. The neat thing about Troy is he was in my very first Todd Durkin Mastermind group for fitness pros way back in 2007. There were about 12 of us in around a table talking about what we can do to create impact in the fitness field. And for many years, Troy was in that group. And then as the group, the Mastermind group expanded, Troy was my very first coach, the first coach of the Todd Durkin Mastermind group. And in the last 15 years, as he's going to share here in a moment, he's been through a lot of good times, been through some really crazy times as well. But most importantly is in his own reinventions and his reiterations, he's been in this metamorphosis, and he changes a lot of people's lives now at a very deep level. Now, we're calling this all about pain has a purpose. And since episodes 301 through 306, all of my reinvention series, I talked a lot about pain, but one doesn't have to be in pain to actually extract all of the lessons that we may get from some of your setbacks, some of your failures. When you look back as a child or growing up, or even in your own career or in your life, any kind of adversity, setbacks, or failures have taught you a lot of lessons. I believe that today's episode is going to be unlike any of the other ones you have listened to when it comes to Troy's philosophy and some of the great work that he's doing, including some of the meditation and breath work and some of the practices that he uses to not only heal himself, but what he does now to heal and impact other people as well. So without further ado, let's go up to Reno, Nevada and listen to Troy Fontana and I talk about pain has a purpose. All right, Troy Fontana is in the house. Troy, welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much for having me here.
This is such a treat. As mentioned in the introduction, man, listen, Troy and I go back over 15 years. Troy was in my first Todd Durkin Mastermind group for Fit Pros. He then became my first coach in the Todd Durkin Mastermind group, and he's up in Sparks, Reno, Nevada. And now, man, he has grown so much. Troy, it's so good to see you, brother. Man.
Thank you, brother. It's an honor to be here. I love what you're doing. I love what you're sharing, and I relate to it. I'm sure so many people can relate to it as well. So thank you, brother.
You know, Troy has an incredible story, and you're going to hear that today. We talk about pain having a purpose. You know, he's owned a gym. He's been a coach. He's been a professional boxer. He's got a huge martial arts background. We recently deeply connected in 2022 and early this year when Troy was part of the God-Sized Dreams coaching program I had. And in hearing what he's been through and what he's doing now to change lives, I'm like, hey, T-Roy, we got to get on the podcast. We got to ignite some people with some further motivation, inspiration. So y'all are going to be blessed today from hearing from Troy and all the great stuff that he's got going on. And Troy is a husband, and he's got 3 kids. How's that side of your life? I mean, the kiddos, they're growing up like weeds, brother.
That's right, man. As I always say, it's wild and crazy, and they're the ultimate mirror of ourselves. So anytime I see something there that frustrates me, I know I got that as well. So it's always constant medicine, but it's a beautiful journey, brother.
Well, it's great to see you and hear your voice again. I think back 2007 when you were coaching in the Mastermind. I remember going up to Sparks, Reno, Nevada, seeing your studio, and the passion that you played with then, you still have today. And to see what you're doing on a coaching standpoint is just awesome. So that Troy gets his formal due, I want to give y'all his incredible bio. Check this out. Troy has guided thousands of individuals through a transformational journey over the past 2 decades. After hitting rock bottom in his own life, Troy embarked on a journey of self-love and overcoming limiting beliefs, undergoing a transformation that's nothing short of inspiring. Now he employs a potent blend of targeted coaching techniques, active breath work, meditation hacks, and his proprietary elite coaching system. These methods empower his clients to quickly tap into their inner superpowers, fostering lasting change. With over 20 years of coaching experience and his own personal transformation as testament to his methods, Troy's established himself as the go-to expert for entrepreneurs and passionate individuals looking to significantly boost their profits and make substantial improvements in their relationships and personal growth. Troy, man, I am so excited to have you on the show today. What a background. You're helping thousands of men and women today get through a lot of the stuff that they've had to process in the last, several years alone, but you're making a huge impact in the universe. I want to say thank you.
Yeah, brother. Thank you. And even in hearing that, I think it's easy to look at, quote, our accomplishments. But for me, all those things pale in comparison to the journey of life and the struggles and the challenges. And I think for a season of my life, I felt like I was my accomplishments. That was the journey. The more of those I could get, the better I felt about myself. That's what defined me. And until you get those stripped away, until you truly hit rock bottom and you're forced to look at yourself as who you are without those things, then you're forced inward, right? And I feel like the door to success actually doesn't open outward, it opens inward. It's an inward journey. And so that's where I go deep now. Everything is always inward. And I feel like if I do that work first, then the outward takes care of itself. And I can let go of that more. And it's a much more relaxed energy. And so today, like even back then when I was, quote, more successful or doing these things or building businesses and all that stuff, I wasn't really truly happy. Like I'd go to bed at night and I'd still grind my teeth because I was stressed. I was always in my head. I wasn't present in my body. And so now I'm on this path of it's abundant, but it's also beautiful. And I just allow and I surrender and I move through this like more beautiful measure of life.
Well, that's the hard work. Doing the inner work is the hard work, right? When you got stuff going on, whether you're holding on to any form of emotion, and whether it's anger, resentment, hate, whatever that is that could be holding you back and down. When we talk about letting that go, it takes a lot of deep, intensive work often to process that, to go through that, so that we can get to the other side where we are living with more joy, more peace, more happiness, more fulfillment, all of the things that we've been discussing here, well, at least on the Impact Show for years now, but even in the last several months, I've been going deep myself. And Troy, I know you've been listening in as well. Episodes 301 through 306, we're all about that. And in the reinvention series of how you continue to reinvent yourself on a regular basis. I want to hear more, though, about your journey from hitting rock bottom to now, even, I've heard you called, the confidence crafter and the business whisperer and the relationship wizard. I mean, some of these cool things, but take me back to a few of those things that happened in your life where you had to hit rock bottom and then rebound.
Well, gosh, in my 20s, I built you can almost call it like a fitness empire, as you know. And I had multiple studio locations. I bought a condo on the golf course. I was driving around in a BMW. I'm starting to speak at these industry events. And on the outside, I was really moving towards my dreams. This was what I had envisioned. But we're talking about the inner journey a little bit. A lot of that, looking back now, was rooted in deep feelings of inadequacy, not feeling like I was lovable, not feeling like I was worthy. And so I was always overcompensating. And when you have those deep energies, and that's why earlier, even that bio talks about understanding self-love, is that void will never be satisfied outside of ourselves. And so I didn't have a measure of when I should slow down, or what would be a good decision or a bad decision or the best decision for me. And so I became overstressed, adrenal fatigue, health issues. And then you kind of combine that with the recession that happened in around 2009. And I just leveraged myself out. So I just bought all of my locations. I think I read Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'm like, oh yeah, got this. I'm all in, and things seem like they're going to be, fruitful. And, but that's not always God's plan, right? That was my plan. That was Troy's plan, but Troy's plan is not always the best plan. And so I ended up, short story long here, but I ended up losing everything, right? And I was in that moment forced, quite literally losing everything, walking out of my condo one day and my BMW was repossessed, losing my business, losing my vocation at that time, and then going to a place where I didn't feel, I was so broken. When men get broke, oftentimes they become broken. And that's where I was. All my worth was in those things. And so I was forced to look at myself. And for a long time, I didn't like what I looked at. And if we look at even energetics, I started to embody energies of shame, energies of guilt, and then compounding that with fear. And I believe everything has a frequency. And science can even show this, right? Food, plants, flowers, all have different frequencies. And so when you're holding on to lower level emotional frequencies, it creates a resonance, almost like a radio station, like a signal that you start to tune into. And so if you're resonating in shame and guilt and all this stuff, that's what you pick up. And so it's who we surround ourselves with, the way we talk. I was very victim framed, oh, this happened to me, the economy, and everything was outside of my control. And when we do that, we give away our power. Where's Troy anymore? I gave away my power to all this outside stuff. And so, along that time, both my college roommates ended up taking their lives, not shortly after, through their own.
How old were you around this time? Just to give a framework.
Yep. I was late 20s, early 30s.
Okay.
So now I'm 28 to, 32, 33. Okay. I'm kind of in this lost state, right? And I'm still attempting, I'm still doing different business things. I'm still putting myself out there, but it was almost like the rug just kept getting pulled out. I think it was the universe's way of going, dude, stop, go inward, let's heal. Because if you're creating out of shame, guilt, and fear, what are you actually creating? What's the fruit of that going to look like? And so I finally was forced to stop. That's the rock bottom moment. And that rock bottom moment for me looked like, and just to be very authentic, it was having young children and then going, I think they might be better off without me.
Wait, so hold that thought for a second.
Yep.
So you've got young kids.
Yep.
And you start having suicidal ideologies.
Yeah. I'm thinking, literally measuring out. right? Like, maybe this would be better for everybody in my life. And maybe there's no purpose for Troy here, right? Maybe I brought them to the world and that was it. And heavy space, depression so heavy that at times I couldn't see color, like literally black and white.
Okay. So what happened next?
So I remember clearly, like what now I would call like a surrender moment, where I was just like, all right, I give up. I've got no solutions, no answers.
Yep.
And it was almost in that moment, like my mind opened up, and then what I would call like alignment, things started coming in front of me. So different opportunities to maybe heal. And I would like just be inquisitive about this. Like, let me try a little bit of this. Let me work with this person. Let me put myself out here. And I started doing that, and I started feeling a little bit better. And I remember once I like tasted that, I was like, wait, if this can work, I want all of it. And I literally just dove in head first into everything I could understand about healing. And there was a time where if you told me like, Troy, you need to heal, I wouldn't even know what that meant. I'd be like, what do you mean heal? Like, healing what?
Yep. Was faith a part of your life at all at that point?
Okay, so before that, it was, but I would say at that time, it wasn't intimate with me necessarily. It's more given to me through culture, through maybe parental environmental conditionings, right? And during that time, to be honest, I feel like I distanced myself from God. I was like, how could you let this do this to me? How could this happen? Again, victimhood, right? Blame,
sure.
Not seeing the silver lining and what's actually taking place in my life. It was still me and my ego holding on, right? But I'm supposed to be this person. My life is supposed to look like this. Me. And that's where suffering comes from, right? That's where you go from pain to suffering. Then I'm in suffering. And when you're suffering, you're looking for coping mechanisms, and it makes it even worse. And so finally letting go to that. And now I would say, on the rebound of that, I have a very intimate relationship with God, the universe, faith. It's very personal. It's very deep. It's very one-to-one. It's very felt.
When you talk about pain and you say, where does pain and suffering come from? You're talking all forms of pain. Obviously, there's physical pain, but there's mental, emotional, spiritual pain as well.
Yeah, I think, I mean, physical, often easier to see, right?
Yep.
And there's always a lesson in that. Like I remember having an experience where through my healing journey, where I realized I had used my body and never nurtured it.
Yep.
And the message was kind of like, hey, dude, time to nurture your body, right? Show it some self-love. That's a form of self-love, nurturing it. And also, emotional suffering, when we're at dis-ease, we're creating disease, right? But where does that dis-ease come from? It was Troy's version of what my life should look like, having friction against what maybe God or the universe wanted my life to look like, how I was supposed to serve the world, who I could become. And I was over-identified, right? Well, I'm supposed to be, this top personal trainer, entrepreneur, all these things. Who says?
So what was the turning point? I mean, you just talked about you're at the lower lows. You've got suicidal ideologies, like maybe my family would be better without me, or this world would be better without me. What was was there a moment where you're like, you're crushed? And I do believe that God sometimes crushes us to get us to go where we want, or where he wants us to go, not where we want to go. But was there a moment in time that you're like, I can't give up, or was it just that glimmer of hope and light, or was there a messenger? Was there a sign? Was there ever a moment where like, I got to keep going? What was it?
I think, gosh, if you take it back to maybe my athletics background, right? And even boxing in particular, there was always a deep will to just keep going on. Like I remember being like 13, and my coach at the time was a former world champion. And I remember like the first time I got to spar, he just beat the piss out of me. And not that this is a good thing at all, right? But I remembered this will to be like, dude, I just can't go down. And like ribs were hurting. And I'm like, oh, I got to hang on here. It was that, look, like wherever you're going to find humans, you're going to find cockroaches. Those are the two things that survive the best. And so in that moment, I think there was just this deeper energy of like, I gotta keep going. Even if I'm dragging myself along, I'm gonna keep moving forward. But it was that surrender moment. That's really what it was letting go. Like, I give up. I don't have to be anything, anybody. I surrender to life. What do you like, not even knowing it, but saying like, what do you want my life to look like? And in that moment, things just started to line up, little glimmers of hope, people offering help, because then I could actually use my voice, because before then I was suffocating myself. I didn't want to tell anyone. I was just holding on to all that pain. And that's one of the things as men, man, we really struggle with that because of so much conditioning, cultural conditioning, what it's like to be a man. Just listen to the phrases, you know, cowboy up, right? Pick yourself up by your bootstraps, get up, you know, all these phrases, right, that speak to men. Gosh, I mean, I remember, and this is no, you know, not a backhanded thing, but I remember in one of my healing experiences, even my own father saying, like, you know, I was 7 years old. I couldn't have consciously told you this, but it was actually during a breathwork experience. And my dad saying, I haven't cried in 30 years. But what I noticed was it was an imprint. And the imprint was, oh, this is how men are supposed to behave. We don't cry. That don't work. That don't work. We have to cry. It's medicine. It lets go of toxic energy. And so it was getting to that point where I allowed myself to cry, allowed myself to use my voice. I need help. And then the universe started showing up. People started showing up.
Did you have a close relationship with your father growing up?
I did. Yeah, I did. We had challenges. We had challenges. And look, like, I'm what's called a transformational character. And what that is somebody who changes the generational trauma. It's me. I'm that guy. I'm that guy. And I understand that now. I am changing those things. And the beauty in that is I can forgive everybody behind me because it just got passed on and passed on.
So with kids now, 11, 8, and 7, right? They're 11, 8, 7.
Yeah.
So with young kids, how do you pass that on to them?
Yeah. I allow them to use their emotions. I get down to their eye level. I allow them to be human. They don't have to be perfect. It's about their feelings. I let them express themselves. And just a short little story. The other day, I'm throwing the ball with my kids outside, and one of the neighbor kids is over. And the neighbor kid, his father has left them. Father's not around. And they're playing, and he gets hurt. And he says something, but I'm not going to cry. And I stopped him right there. Todd, one of the things I do is I lead men's retreats. And so I grab the kid, I pull him over, put my arm around him, I go, hey, it's okay to cry. It's powerful to cry. I lead men's retreats, and I'm telling you right now, it's okay to cry. And so he started to allow himself to cry. And then for like a month after that, the kids around him would be like, they'd fall down or something, would be like, it's okay to cry. It's okay to cry. Right? Like this little running mantra that took place. But that's medicine. And when we heal ourselves, we become walking medicine. And that's how I believe I am today. I believe we all have the potential, but I view myself as walking medicine. You come around me and it's medicine. You're naturally going to start to heal.
And in a minute, I want to talk about some of the practices that you use to help people get out of pain, whatever kind of pain it is. But what is your opinion and study about the purpose of pain? What's the purpose of pain?
I think if you look at more of a topical view, you have to understand what it means to be human. We have to redefine that. Again, I talked about earlier that I thought it was about accolades and success and all these things. But if we really rediscover what it means to be human, it's to experience life and it's to grow. This is a school, not a courtroom. And so one of the things I often tell people is less rights and wrongs in your life. Look at things as more or less. Do you want more of something or less of something? You didn't do a wrong. And that takes a lot of suffering away when we can change that frame. And so then that helps me be a human. I can make mistakes. I can have failures and not see them as failures. And so I think pain takes us deeper into ourselves. It's an opportunity to strip away our ego. Our ego is the thing that wants to hold on. Our ego is the thing that has suffering. But that deeper, more eternal part of ourselves is who we really are. And look, like, you can't be anything that you witness, right? Like, I can witness my t-shirt and I'm not my t-shirt, but I can also witness my thoughts. I can witness my emotions. So therefore I am the witness. So when I slow down enough and I just witness life, that's the beauty. And pain takes you into that.
Deep, T. Roy. Back in episode 300, Rory Vaden said a quote that it resonated with me. He said, "You can best help the person that you most used to be like," right? So where you come from. And I see that in you because of the journey that you've traveled in the last, 2 decades with going through so many setbacks, adversities, and now to see how you're impacting people so positively. I know there's some specific exacting strategies that you use. Can you share a few of those strategies that you use that I think are important for everyone, whether you're in pain or not? I think when you share your strategies, these are things that all of us can be using on a regular basis, either one, to eradicate or eliminate pain, or to embrace pain, or if you're not in pain in some way, I think it's going to allow you to continue to thrive as your best self as well. So can you share some of those practices and points that you have?
Yes, absolutely. And, I think the first one that comes to mind is breath work, but I'll explain how I came about that. As I was like healing, I would do meditations. And in those meditations, I was unpacking my trauma in a way, because the reality is our body holds the score. And so trauma is stored in the body. And so a lot of times when you experience trauma, you cut off your body and you get very heady. It's hard to sleep. You're overly stressed. Again, I was grinding my teeth every night. I was in my head. It's because my body was shut off. And when we're shut off, we lose the connection and bridge to our heart. And our heart's so powerful. And so I would notice my breath would always be like part of this, right? I'd have like these releases of energy. I'd like let these soft healing breaths out. And so I started to study breath work and studied a lot of different modalities, and then created this experience that's about an hour long, an hour and a half or so. And it's like this ceremony where I use music. I speak to your subconscious. So I'll cue things. Like I'll say, like, let's look into your fears. What are you still holding on to? What are you afraid to feel? And I induce what's called the holotropic state. And so you overbreathe. So your mouth breathing, you're overbreathing, and it creates a stressed state, but you're in a safe space. And so it allows your body to pull up these memories, like quite literally. And what's cool with your breath is it's your own medicine. Even like if I gave you caffeine, right? That has its own agenda. But breath is your own medicine. And so it pulls up what you need to see. And so people just start unpacking all this energy. Some people, they start to emote. And that means maybe you cry, maybe you yell, whatever it is. And then in these sessions, about halfway through, I change the tone, I soften it up, and I allow people to go into what's called the parasympathetic nervous system. It's more of a healing nervous system. We kind of change some of those stories. And so these have the potential to make big shifts in people's state. And so breath work was massive for me. It's something that I've helped a lot of people online with, and also my community. I hold these community events where people come and they're wild. I mean, there's a lot of energy in there.
How often do you do breath work personally for yourself?
I would say at this point, breath work is an embodiment. And what that means is always, even as we're doing this, Todd, I'm like, I'll relax myself with my breath. Like I can feel I'm that in tune with it.
So you're not saying, hey, I'm going to do 20 minutes of breath work a day.
Okay. I do it. So if I'm meditating, right? Maybe I'm a little stressed and I feel my chest and my breath is up here. That's when you're stressed. You feel your breath up here. And so I'll just kind of let it go, move my body, relax it. And look at it like cooking, right? So in the beginning, you got to follow the recipe. So you might do 20 minutes of breath work every day. Great. Over time, you'll start to embody it. And then it's just part of who you are. I do it.
Yeah, I was going to say, how about one of our listeners who obviously may be like, hey, I need more meditation and breath work. Yeah. And even for myself, I'm like, hey, I love breath work. I love meditation. Yeah. If I could do it most days of the week for a few minutes and take a practice, obviously then that helps throughout the day, being more relaxed and having that parasympathetic system augment the sympathetic nervous system. I'd be curious, Troy, at the end of the podcast, after the podcast is over, because I'm curious how you do your breath work. Could you put you on the spot here? Could you, when we're all over, lead a little bonus breath work, like three, not 20 minutes, like 3 to 5 minutes?
I got you. Yeah, I have a perfect little daily breathwork thing you can do.
Yeah,
You
that's
can
what I
literally
want.
do in
That's
3
what
to
I
5
want.
minutes.
Yeah. So guys, stick around at the end when it's all over. Don't leave. You know, like it's all over. I want to experience that. I want our listeners to experience a few minutes of breath work, because maybe not everyone, quote, embodies it on a regular basis. We're all aware. Well, hopefully we're aware of stress, and you feel sometimes a knot either in your throat or your stomach, or your gut's not right. So, okay, number one, breath work. What else?
I'd say meditation is huge.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be perfect with meditation. That's the key. Just watch the stream of thoughts. Again, be the witness. So when I lead like a meditation, the cues I use are, can you be the witness to your ears? Can you just be the witness to your mouth, to understand what it's like to be a human that can taste, to have eyes that can see? So I'm kind of conditioning you to force yourself back into yourself and be the witness and observer of those things. So just witness your thoughts. That's how you kind of start meditation.
How would you characterize the difference between breath work and meditation, or is it done simultaneously?
You can do them simultaneously. Meditation, you can do when you're cleaning. You can do when you're walking. It's just a form of falling back, observing. Mm-hmm. Breath work might be a little more, I'm sitting down, I'm going to do breath work in this moment, right?
Would you say that meditation and visualization is the same thing?
I would say they're different.
Okay.
Yeah. I often bring visualization into my meditation.
There you go. Okay,
yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. What else?
I would say reframing stories. I have a specific way I like to do it, but that's huge. So as an example, to go all the way back to the beginning of this, when I was carrying a lot of shame and guilt, I looked at those stories I was telling myself about losing my gym. And guilt says I did something wrong. Shame says something's wrong with me. So I was looking at it, I was carrying shame, and I saw a story like, how can I let this happen? What's wrong with me? Was kind of the story. What's wrong with me? But then when I really sat with it and I looked at it and I looked at that story and kind of like, is this even true? I was like, dude, look at who you became. Look what you were forced into. Look at the connections you created. Look at all the people you helped. And I literally saw like this line that was all connected with love. It was always just love. That's it. Makes me emotional just to say that, because that's what it always ever is. So that story disappeared. And then I found another one and another one and another one.
How long would you say that process took you? Because you make it sound so seamless right now that you're in the abyss of darkness, you're depressed, you've got these crazy thoughts, and then you have such a philosophical way now to think about it. But I know it's not, hey, I just started thinking about, positive thoughts and doing breath work, and the next thing I know, I feel like $1 million. Yeah. Was this something that took 6 months, years, 5 years? How long was that process?
I would say that it's ongoing. You're never finished. But that more like intense journey was a few years. It was a few years. Yeah, different levels, unpacking. And then finally to the point where, again, I felt so good. I was like, I have to share this with the world, but I'm still very aware that there's always unpacking to do, but I'm just way more aware of it, way different frames I can view the world through. The work works.
So we got breath work, we got meditation, we got stories. What's another one?
Gratitude, huge, right?
Talk about it.
Even just the other day, right? Talking with a friend of mine, and he's like, man, don't tell me what you don't have. Tell me what you do have, right? And it's just a reminder, always stay in gratitude. I always try to start my day with gratitude. And look, I did a challenge for myself. I said, all right, I remember waking up in my house, being very unhappy. Like, this isn't where I want to be. I'm not living the life I want to have. And then going, all right, dude, figure it out. Learn to get happy right now. Nothing changes. Just get happy right now with what you have. And so I did that through a gratitude journal. I committed for 30 days. I wrote down 5 things every day. And here was the key, as I always added a because. I'm grateful for my house because it gives me a warm home, a place to connect with my family. Right? So I always add the because. And I ended up doing it for, I think, like 180 days. I noticed while I was doing that, I would wake up at the time with my hands clenched, like I was bracing for impact every day. And literally I started like relaxing. I could feel the shift in my physiology, relaxing to embrace the day.
Interesting. Yep. Okay. So gratitude, which by the way, I love gratitude. You got to fight for gratitude. It's easy for our minds to not stay in gratitude. I think the discipline of having a gratitude practice. I personally love to write down gratitude in the morning, and when I'm really humming in the evening. Those of you who have my impact journal know that I bookend the days. In the morning journaling, it starts with gratitude. In the evening, the last question ends with gratitude, so you can actually go to bed not worrying about what happened for the today or what's going to happen tomorrow, but really focusing on what has already appeared in your life or who is in your life as well. So I think you have to really fight for gratitude. You got to build that practice into your life. I find that by writing it down, it becomes more real and you can see it. So for anyone out there, make sure gratitude, it's not just thinking it, but it's writing it down and even sharing it with your spouse, your loved ones, your kids, because it does make a huge difference, right? When you're dealing with stress, anxiety, anger, whatever it may be, gratitude, man, it's an anecdote for anything that you might be going through that deals with pain. One more. What's one more you got, T?
I would say like running mantras. And I look at mantras a little bit differently. Like rather than maybe just sitting down and saying, I am this, I am this, I am this. What I do is I create like these mantras that I can use when I feel a certain energy. So if I feel depression coming in, or if I'm starting to have pain, right? Or I'm going against a resistance point. Like I might say, the universe works for me, not against me. So it reframes, right? It changes the perspective. That's all we need sometimes, just a perspective shift. So I have just a whole bunch of these. I'm better today than I was yesterday, right? Like these little things, I just tell myself at certain times, and I carry them like tools and toolboxes. And I just pull them up when I need them, and it kind of just changes my state. Because at some point, we have to understand the power of state control. Like I want to stay in this high vibrational, positive state always. Doesn't mean I always will be. But when I understand that about myself, I'm not going to chase something. So if someone says, well, Troy, you're this, and they try to attack me, or if someone's gossiping, I don't want to chase that state. I'm going to hold this state. And so I do that through my mantras, right? Or the stories I tell myself, or just understanding that I'm staying here. I'm staying in high vibrations, right? Same thing with food. I don't want to chase that thing because I want to stay up here. I honor this, and when we honor that, we change that. Again, what I talked about earlier, that resonance. I resonate with a different energy, different people, different outcomes, different situations.
Hey, listen, all of these practices or principles you're sharing, you don't have to be in pain to do them, right? You don't have to wait to be in pain to do these. So employ them now, integrate them into your regular routine. Let me ask you this. If someone is going through pain right now, what would you tell them to do?
I would say, don't waste it. See it as an actual opportunity. And that's not to undermine your pain, that there's an expiration date to it. Promise you that there's an expiration date to it. And in the beginning, pain is painful. In the middle, it's messy. But at the end, it's beautiful. And I believe, here's another running mantra. I believe that our wounds are our womb for the next creation, our next growth. Has to be. We are nature. If we lose connection to nature, we lose connection to ourselves. We are nature. The flower has to bloom, and to bloom it has to let go. The seed has to break through that soil. And so don't waste your pain. Change your perspective. Ask the questions, what can I learn through this? And look, like when I'm in moments of pain, I notice very easily where I want to distract myself, or where I want to grab my cell phone and scroll. Or maybe it's substances, or it's sex, or it's anything. It's all these distractions to go away from me. But the reality is, if I can turn that inward and go, let me go into me, you can get so freaking deep and so freaking present. And then you bring that gift out to the world. And I believe that is what God is calling us to do, is have this vertical growth. We have linear, right? Like our doing, our work, our business. And anybody who's an entrepreneur, you know it's challenging, right? An athlete, it's challenging. That will force its own growth. And also at the same time, you're being called to have a vertical growth, right? To understand what it means to surrender to life, to detach, to let go, to rediscover your power, step into yourself. And Todd, if we look at those, that creates a cross. That's what I believe it means to bear the cross. That's what that actually meant. And it's a heavy thing to bear, but it's worth it.
Amen to that. Preach it, brother. You talk about the crucible. And I think that's a great philosophy, Troy, when you think about pain has an expiration date. None of us want to be in pain, but there's pain all over. Can I get an amen? Anybody. If it's not you, you know someone in pain right now in some way, shape, or form. There's pain all around. We have kids in pain. We have adults in pain. We have a lot of stuff going on. And when you think about pain has an expiration date, I love that, because when you're going through it, you don't think that. You don't think that your back pain is going to ever end, or that your divorce or your financial problems that you're having, the pain that you feel emotionally because you were hurt by somebody, you feel like it's never going to end. And I think it is a great reminder to know that it will. Like, I've shared this deeply in the last 2 months about my own pains and the fact that I feel great right now. I could not have told you 2 years ago that I'd be out of pain, and that pain would actually serve a deeper purpose, and that God was molding me. And he had me on my knees thinking, all right, God, I'm crushed. Whatever you want, I give up. I wherever you want to mold me, I need to be a better listener. I need to be even more obedient. I can't do it on myself. I think when you talk about that, Troy, it really resonates with most people about when you're in the middle of the storm and there's bullets flying, you don't see that there's ever going to be an end. But you got to know that your pain does have a purpose. I love that wounds are a womb. Your wounds are a womb that is going to birth your next self. That's going to birth that next reinvention or that next project, or who you're supposed to be as a man or as a woman, as a human being, as a parent. Like, what is it you're supposed to be, and how do you step into that? I believe it's, and I've said this, it's always about embracing the pain, not fighting it, because when we fight it, it's sympathetic and that tightens us up. So how can you come full circle and embrace any form of pain you may be going through, and any kind of pain it is? So right on, T. Roy. I love that.
Yeah. Thank you, brother. Yeah. Thank you.
So what about one's out of pain? How do you transition? Is there okay, great, I'm out of pain. How do you use that pain that's in the past to transition after pain?
I think you have to allow space to heal. If I look back at myself, I kept rushing. So I got hurt, I was in pain, and I just went to the next thing. I was still a coping mechanism. Let me go work hard, let me do this, the next thing, start another business, running, until you stop and you realize, hey man, this has been challenging. You witness that, you honor that, you allow yourself space to heal. And then understanding that, the body holds the score. There's even a book called The Body Holds the Score, right?
Great book, great book.
Great book, but it does. And we're an energetic being. Like, we have over 1 trillion nerve cells. So those nerve cells, your nervous system gets dysregulated through that. And so healing those things, and we talked about those 5 points earlier, look into those. There's a lot more than just that you can move into. But the first is just acknowledging what you've been through. Like, man, this has been challenging. This has been a lot. And that's your growth process. That's the transition. And then you start to alchemize. You start to change that suffering. And, I think one thing that is important for people to understand is that wounds is the only universal language. Wounds and scars is the only universal language there is. We can all relate to that. We can all understand that. So share your wounds and your scars, what you've been through. Like, now, that's what I try to do. This is what I'm doing. I'm like, I'm an open book. Been there, lived it. And what's cool about that is I had no judgment. Done it, been there, all of it. Forget about it. We're human, right? We're not robots. We're humans.
It's hard to do, though. I just did it. Right? It's so hard, especially when you're trying to live up to something that many times other people have built you up to be. Right. So you're like, I don't know if I want to share that, because that's going to they're not going to think this way of me anymore. If they knew that I was in so much, quote, pain, what are they going to think? So, man, that is so good. And I just had, the episode come out on that about your scars are your strength. And Troy, the other thing I would say when it comes to pain, and how it teaches us so many lessons is Yeah, the body does tell the score, but I also believe this is, remember, whatever kind of pain you're in, I do believe that our soul, our spirit, right? We've got to nurture that. We've got to make sure that we take care of our soul and spirit, because many times when you're in physical pain and you get defined as your knee or your back or your neck or whatever's going on, you start to almost think of yourself as that. And that affects your mental psyche, right? And next thing you know, you're in physical and mental, almost a depression because of that. And then therefore, if your spirit wanes and gets weak, the flesh is weak, the spirit gets weak. And that's the one thing that will live on way beyond when your body dies someday, is your spirit and soul will reign forever. So to me, it's always important when addressing the topic of pain is to realize that you're not necessarily your pain. Your soul is what you have to continue to nurture. And if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling down, if you're feeling like you've lost hope or all of these things, realize you got to really pour into your spirit and soul. Put yourself around other folks who are strong of spirit. Get help. See a pastor. Get around people who are going to lift you up and battle through this, knowing that, quote, there is an expiration date on everything, right? Including us, unless your soul is right. So, man, I want to say thank you, Troy, for just all that you're doing for so many people. I know you're working with a lot of men and women. You've got retreats going on. You have a lot happening. Where can someone learn more about what you're doing? Where can they follow you? If you can just drop some of that information.
Yeah, thank you, Todd. I'd say my website, troyfontana.co. I've got a free course, mini course on there, some videos people can watch. I have a YouTube channel where I share a bunch of different topics. I talk about the value of presence, how to build your confidence, different resources on there. And then social media as well. I always share little excerpts of things when I'm coaching people. I record a lot of my coaching sessions. I'll put little blurbs on there. And my Instagram is troy.fontana.
Great. Any of those I'll put all of that, guys, in the show notes so that you have that. And again, in a moment when we end the podcast, it's really not going to end because Troy's going to lead us through a little ending meditation. Troy, I want you to know just how proud I am of you, because when I started the mastermind group for Fit Pros in 2007, and there was just a very, very small group of us, you were in that first group, the Knights of the Round Table, right? There was about 12 of us in that group, and I can see us sitting around a table in San Diego thinking about our dreams and visions. And while that was over 15 years ago, to see the journey that you've been on and through, and to see your own growth personally, and now as a family man and someone who's creating great impact, I am so proud of what you're doing and all the people that you're just changing their lives. So I want to say thank you. Thank you for being the man you are, man.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you. Thank you for being such a beautiful example for me, and such a beautiful example of vulnerability. I think that when I first saw you, I remember it was like a shining light. I was just out there trying to figure things out. As soon as I saw you, I was like, I'm following this guy. And I literally went to everywhere Todd Durkin was. You had such a beauty, to this day, you have such a beautiful way of being vulnerable, allowing you. I mean, I see your passion when you talk, and that is a gift to the world alone, regardless of where it goes. Just that energy for anybody that's around is a gift. And you showed me a window in who I could become. And thank you, brother. Thank you.
Thank you. Guys, follow Troy. Make sure you get on his website, troyfontana.co, not com.co, right? So troyfontana.co. I'll drop it in the show notes. Take a look at all his different programs. Stick around. We're going to have an extra bonus meditation in just a moment. But Troy, thank you. Give your wife a big hug for me. Give those 3 kiddos a big hug for me. I can't wait to see whether it be San Diego, Reno, Nevada, or somewhere else around the country at a future retreat. It's always good to see you, brother. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Guys, until next time, remember, always continue to train hard, eat right, live inspired, and go create impact. We're back. Yep. Troy and I are still here. And we promised you that we're going to give you a little extra meditation time, a little breath work time. So what we're going to do here is this in a moment, Troy's going to take over. I want to remind you, if you're out walking, jogging, running, don't close your eyes. If you're out driving, definitely don't close your eyes. And take a look right now on the podcast, whatever minute it is. If you want to come back and do this meditation, this breath work, when you get back home later on, feel free to do that. But it's going to be a few minutes long. Troy has brought the God-Sized Dreams coaching program that I lead through multiple meditations. And this is what he does. He is an expert when it comes to leading the breath work and meditations. And I think you're going to get a little bit of a taste of some of the work that he's going to do. So Troy, I'm going to turn it over to you. And wherever you are, if you're out moving, hopefully this can relax you. If you're just chilling out, this is going to be right up your alley. So Troy, take us away, my friend.
Yes, thank you, brother. And to your point, yes, we're not doing this while we're driving or running or something like that. But if you can just allow yourself a little moment of stillness, maybe even put some music on in the background and get a little bit of space for yourself and invite yourself into your breath. And what I want you to do is just start to mouth breathe. So mouth is open and we're pulling the breath in and blowing it out. Pull it in, blow it out. And just start to find a rhythm. What we're going to do here is we're going to quiet the mind. And we're going to open the heart. Kind of start to pick up your pace now. So you're breathing a little faster than normal and much, much stronger than normal. Just keep going, keep going. And as you're doing this, again, we're getting out of our head and into our heart. We're just allowing. See if you can just settle. You can allow. You can surrender. You can finally let go of who you have to be, anywhere you have to go, any ideas, just let them all go. And just mouth breathe. And just keep that pace, in and out, in and out. I'm gonna invite you just to move your spine a little bit. Maybe just go side to side. Just a slight rotation while you're doing it. In and out. This is the energetic cord of the body, the spine. In and out, in and out. Keep going. And in a second here, I'm gonna have you hold your breath. I'm gonna ask you 3 questions. When this takes place, we're just gonna allow. We're not gonna think our way through it. We're again surrendering. We're giving space. See if you can give space. What's it like to give space? To let go, to surrender. Still mouth breathing. Still mouth breathing. All the tension's disappearing. All the stress out of your body. Your shoulders can finally relax. You let down the walls, let down the armor, and just surrender as you quiet your mind and move into your heart. Okay, big breath in. Hold it. What do you need? What do you need? Just allow. Don't think, just allow. What do you need? What do you want? What do you want? Again, just allow. No need to think. What do you want? Last one, who are you? Who are you? See if you can just discover yourself a little bit more in this moment. Again, out of the mind and into the heart. Just allow. Whatever comes up without judgment. Now we're going to let that breath out. We're going to pull the breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Very soft here, very soft. All that tension, all that stress go. See if you can detach from outcomes. Just allow. Go deeper and deeper into yourself. The most authentic and purest part of who you are. The deepest part of yourself. Just allow, just surrender. In through the nose, out through the mouth. You're exactly where you need to be. You are perfectly imperfect. And that's the way it's supposed to be. You've always been enough. You are worthy. You are so worthy of love. And start to come back into your body. Honoring yourself.
Oh, Man, use that every day right there.
Medicine, brother, medicine. Man. The clarity, right?
So good. Troy, thank you.
Yeah.
You could probably hear it in my voice. It's a little, wait, is that Todd? Yeah. Yep, it's still me. I love to do breath work. I love to do meditation. I love to pray. I think when you combine all of that, when you're doing breath work, you're giving gratitude for breath. 18 to 22,000 times a day do we breathe. So when we give gratitude for breath and honor our breath, we're grateful for breath. And when you can take that quiet time, a lot of times I think about prayer. To me, prayer used to be just always talking to God. So much of prayer now is listening. And when you listen, you could be meditating and doing breath work and listening to what God's saying. And that's that intuition we talk about is often God whispering to us of, what he wants us to do and directs us. So this is a perfect time right now, after a beautiful meditation and breath work that Troy just brought us through, is just to spend some extra time here in solitude, in quiet, in silence, because that's the hardest thing that we do all day is silence, is where you just slow down, quiet down, and Troy, I want to thank you for that, for each and every one of you who are still with us, who just went through Troy's meditation and breath work. Make sure you go hop over to his course and everything else. And if you're a kid listening in, I was thinking about this, Troy, if you're a kid who's listening in today, and we do have a fair amount of young men and women listening in, everything that we just talked about applies to you as well. All of these things, because everyone traces a lot of this stuff back to childhood, right? But breath work, stories, meditation, gratitude, mantras, all of these things are important for every single one of us. Age is non-discriminatory when it comes to this type of work and processing it. So know that is something that we all can do on a regular basis. And Troy Fontana is certainly epitomizing this as well. So I want to say again, thank you, Troy. I don't know if I've ever been as calm at the end of a podcast. I'm going to keep it that way because I'm feeling very peaceful and zenned out. So, brother, man, thank you so much. I love you, and I can't wait to give you a big old hug.
Yeah, I love you. Thank you. Honor and a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Troy.
Yeah.